The security camera captured 4 minutes and 3 seconds of footage. 4 minutes that would be watched by millions around the world. 4 minutes that would spawn countless theories, sleepless nights for investigators, and questions that remain unanswered more than a decade later. A young woman steps into an elevator. She presses multiple buttons. The door should close. They don't. She peers out into the hallway, scanning left, then right, as if checking for someone. Or something. She steps back inside, then out again. Her movements become increasingly erratic. She appears to be speaking to someone we cannot see. Her hands gesture wildly in the air, as if engaged in an animated conversation with an invisible presence. Then she vanishes from the frame. The elevator doors finally close. It would be 19 days before anyone would see Sarah Chen again. But when they found her, the questions multiplied exponentially. Because Sarah wasn't just missing, she was discovered in a place that seemed physically impossible for her to reach, in a location that would challenge everything investigators thought they knew about this case. This is the story of two mysteries that defined the 2010s. Two cases that demonstrate how even in our age of constant surveillance and digital footprints, people can still disappear in ways that defy explanation. Two investigations that would reveal the dark underbelly of seemingly ordinary places and the extraordinary courage of those who tried to document their own fate. January 26, 2013. 21-year-old Sarah Chen checked into the Roosevelt Tower Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She was on a solo trip, part of a larger West Coast adventure that should have taken her from San Diego to Santa Cruz. She had been maintaining daily contact with her family in Vancouver. Every day without fail she would call or text her parents to let them know where she was and what she had planned. The Roosevelt Tower had a reputation. Built in the 1920s, it had served as both a glamorous destination and a refuge for those down on their luck. By 2013, it housed a mix of budget travelers, long-term residents, and those seeking temporary shelter. The hotel had witnessed numerous deaths over the decades, some natural, some not so natural, some that were never fully explained. Sarah's behavior at the hotel was immediately noticed by staff and other guests. Within the first few days, hotel management moved her from a shared room to a private accommodation. The reason given was that she had been disturbing other guests, but the specifics of what she had been doing were never clearly documented. January 31st marked the day Sarah was scheduled to check out and continue her journey north. Her parents waited for their daily call. It never came. They contacted the Los Angeles Police Department that same day. The investigation began immediately, but the Roosevelt Tower was a complex building with multiple levels, hidden passages, and restricted areas. Finding one person in such a maze seemed daunting. On February 13th, nearly 2 weeks after Sarah's disappearance, the LAPD made a decision that would change everything. They released the elevator surveillance footage to the public. The 4-minute video showed Sarah's final known movements within the hotel. What the public saw was unlike anything they had encountered in a missing person case. The footage begins normally enough. Sarah enters the elevator carrying what appears to be a red sweatshirt. She approaches the button panel and presses multiple floors. The elevator doors remain open far longer than they should. This is the first anomaly that investigators noted. The doors should have closed within seconds, but they remain agape for nearly a full minute. Sarah then begins to exhibit behavior that has puzzled experts for over a decade. She steps partially out of the elevator, peering down the hallway in both directions. Her body language suggests caution, perhaps fear. She retreats back into the elevator but then emerges again, this time stepping completely into the hallway. What happens next has become the most analyzed portion of the footage. Sarah appears to begin speaking to someone outside the camera's range. Her mouth moves in what seems to be conversation. Her hands gesture expressively. She appears to be responding to someone or something, but the hallway appears empty in the footage. The behavior escalates. Sarah moves her hands in increasingly animated gestures. She touches her hair repeatedly. She places her hands against the elevator walls. At one point she appears to be hiding, pressing herself against the side wall of the elevator as if trying to avoid detection by someone in the hallway. After several minutes of this behavior, Sarah exits the elevator completely. She moves outside the camera's view, and the elevator doors finally close. The timestamp shows this as her last confirmed sighting within the hotel. But the mystery was only beginning. Hotel guests began complaining about water pressure issues on February 18th. The complaints were specific: low pressure, unusual taste, and a strange color to the water coming from taps and showers. Maintenance teams were dispatched to investigate the building's water system. The Roosevelt Tower's water supply came from 4 large tanks positioned on the building's roof. These tanks were enclosed, heavy structures that required special access. The roof itself was secured and was not accessible to hotel guests without proper authorization. The tanks had heavy lids that required significant strength to move. On February 19th, maintenance worker Miguel Santos climbed to the roof to inspect the water tanks. What he discovered would haunt him for the rest of his life. In the northeast tank, floating in the water supply that had been serving the entire hotel, was Sarah Chen's body. The discovery raised immediate questions that investigators are still trying to answer today. How did Sarah access a locked roof? How did she open a tank lid that required considerable strength to move? Why was there no other evidence of her presence on the roof? And perhaps most puzzling of all, if she had fallen into the tank accidentally, why were there no signs of struggle or attempts to escape? February 13, 2017. The same date 4 years later in the small town of Riverside, Indiana. 2 best friends, 13-year-old Amy Williams and 14-year-old Lisa German, decided to spend their day off from school hiking the Riverside Historic Trail. It was an unusually warm day for February, reaching nearly 60 degrees. Perfect weather for an outdoor adventure. February 13, 2017. The same date 4 years later in the small town of Riverside, Indiana. 2 best friends, 13-year-old Amy Williams and 14-year-old Lisa German, decided to spend their day off from school hiking the Riverside Historic Trail. It was an unusually warm day for February, reaching nearly 60 degrees. Perfect weather for an outdoor adventure. The girls were dropped off at the trailhead by Amy's older sister around 1:30 p.m. The plan was simple: hike the trail, take some photos, and be picked up later that afternoon. The trail was popular with locals, featuring an old railroad bridge that had become a favorite spot for photographs and social media posts. Lisa was known for her love of photography and social media. She documented everything with her phone, sharing moments with friends and family through various apps. This habit, which might have seemed typical for a teenager, would become crucial to understanding what happened that day. Around 2:07 p.m., Lisa posted a photo to her social media account. The image showed Amy walking across the Riverside High Bridge, an abandoned railroad trestle that stretched 63 feet above the creek below. The photo would be the last image either girl would post to their accounts. When the girls failed to meet their pickup at the designated time, family members immediately became concerned. Amy and Lisa were responsible teenagers who always stayed in contact. By 5:30 p.m., search parties were being organized. Local police, fire departments, and volunteers began combing the trail and surrounding areas. The search continued through the night and into the next morning. On February 14th, the girls' bodies were discovered near Little Creek, approximately half a mile from the high bridge. The location was difficult terrain, accessible only by foot through dense woodland. What investigators found on Lisa's phone would provide both crucial evidence and raise some disturbing questions. In addition to the photo of Amy on the bridge, Lisa had captured audio and video of what appeared to be the final moments before the girls disappeared. The recording begins innocuously enough. The phone captured normal conversation between the 2 friends as they explored the bridge area, but then, something changes. A male voice can be heard in the background, though the words are initially unclear. The girls' conversation stops. Lisa, with remarkable presence of mind, continued recording without drawing attention to what she was doing. The phone captured approximately 43 seconds of audio, though only a portion has ever been released to the public. In that brief recording, a man's voice can be clearly heard saying, "Guys, down the hill." The tone of the voice is authoritative, commanding. It's not a request or suggestion, it's an order. The recording also captured what investigators believe to be the sound of the girls moving, presumably in the direction the voice commanded them to go. This brief audio recording would become one of the most analyzed pieces of evidence in modern criminal investigation. Voice analysis experts, amateur investigators, and law enforcement agencies have studied every inflection, every background sound, every possible clue contained within those few seconds. The investigation that followed would involve federal agencies, state police, and hundreds of local volunteers. Tips poured in from across the country. The case generated national attention, with true crime enthusiasts and professional investigators alike trying to solve the mystery of what happened to Amy and Lisa in those wooded hills of Indiana. Both cases share remarkable similarities despite occurring 4 years and thousands of miles apart. Both involved young people who documented their final moments through technology. Both investigations relied heavily on digital evidence that raised more questions than it answered, and both cases demonstrate how quickly a routine day can transform into an incomprehensible mystery. Sarah Chen's case was officially ruled an accidental death, but the ruling satisfied few people familiar with the details. The physical evidence suggested scenarios that seemed to defy logical explanation. How she accessed the roof, how she entered the water tank, and why she exhibited such unusual behavior in the elevator footage remained unexplained. The Amy and Lisa case saw a breakthrough in 2022, when local resident Richard Matthews was arrested and charged with their murders. But even with an arrest, questions remained about the investigation's timeline, the evidence that led to Matthews, and whether justice had truly been served after 5 years of uncertainty. These cases remind us that mystery still exists in our hyper-connected world. Despite cameras on every corner, phones in every pocket, and digital footprints tracking our every move, people can still vanish in ways that challenge our understanding of what's possible. The families of Sarah, Amy, and Lisa continue to seek answers. They represent hundreds of families across the country dealing with similar uncertainties, similar questions that may never be fully resolved. Their stories serve as reminders of both human vulnerability and human resilience in the face of the unexplainable. The 2010 S gave us cases that redefined how we think about missing persons investigations. They showed us that sometimes the evidence we capture tells a story, but not necessarily the complete story. And they demonstrated that in our rush to find explanations, we sometimes have to accept that some mysteries may remain forever unsolved. What happened in that elevator? What occurred on that bridge? The recordings exist. The evidence remains. But the complete truth may be something we never fully understand. And perhaps that's the most unsettling mystery of all.